Let's roll. The Combat Sports Report has begun. I am Gabe Morency on the SportsGrid Television Network, Roku, and more. Let's do this thing. We've got a lot of stuff to unpack as the BKFC Summer of Violence Tour continues. And they're in England this week, Uruguay last week, Italy 2 weeks ago. And we've got a bunch of clips from the Fenway Park press conference as BKFC is going to Fenway Park in late August, and the press conference went the way that you kind of thought that a BKFC press conference in Boston would go. As these press conferences are like over the top, just over the top in BKFC. So, and our boy King Kai Stewart was in the middle of it all. Actually, he probably should get out of Boston pretty quickly after this press conference, after everything that was said at the press conference. So we'll get you caught up to date in the BKFC world. UFC continues. Last week, Middle East. This week, they go to Serbia for the first time. Pretty crazy, too. You think, really? They've never been there before. But no, they've never been there before. And there's been quite a few Serbian fighters in the UFC over the years. So the UFC in Serbia for the first time ever. We've got our videos of the week and more. Let's bring in Tom Zaffino right now to break down this card in Serbia. Tom, coming off the Middle Eastern card, in which we cashed some tickets once again. It's been a nice run, actually, of picks on this show. We've been doing pretty well over the last month or so by not overdoing it. I used to bet every fight on the card, literally. I'd bet every fight on the card and a little bit less on this and that and stuff, but now there's so many fighters and new dudes making their debuts and all this other stuff. I usually end up with 4 or 5 picks. And, I'm not going to say it's discipline. It's just I don't really, want to bet on the other dudes. But I've been doing well, and I think we can keep it going this week. But it is a very chalky card this week. And I do like the chalk, Tom. So a couple of upsets, and there will be some parlay busters this week. What do you think of the card this week?
Yeah, the card this week is very similar to last week. I mean, we expect it to be pretty chalky. There's a lot of names that we don't know. There's a lot of big favorites that you don't necessarily want to put your money on as big favorites. And it's kind of one of those spots where you got to pick and choose. I mean, there's, like I said last week, there's the takedown ladders we can look at. There's over-unders that we can look at. Don't necessarily have to be betting money lines on all these fights. But, yeah, I mean, there's some, solid parlay pieces here. Last week, it was one of those cards where I was starting to bet a little bit more than I needed to, and I was like, all right, I got to settle down. Kind of got my bearings under me and actually turned out to be a halfway decent card. But, yeah, I mean, these cards, there's just so much unknown. There's so much chalk you got to pick through. You got to really pick your spots. And, yeah, this is another one of those cards. I mean, there are some good spots, and there are some fighters that I think are going to win. But, betting them at minus 400, not necessarily what I want to be doing. So, yeah, we got to pick and choose and, be patient with these cards.
So how do you feel about the main event then? Because the main event is pretty much in the minus 400 range, minus 380 right now with Medic versus Daniel Rodriguez. And there's interesting scenarios in which fighters are out, right? They're out due to injury. They're out due to contract issues, right? And, different reasons. Daniel Rodriguez has been out and hasn't fought because he was in jail. So it's a different,
right.
It's a different, I'm curious too, how some announcers handle things sometimes, Tom. When they say, he faced a lot of adversity in the last year. It's no, he was in jail.
Yeah.
Are they just going to come out and say, listen, yeah, he was incarcerated for the last year, and this is his first fight. But so he was in a Mexican prison and, marijuana type stuff. But with that being stated, he did 9 months, and you can't be training, and obviously the food in a Mexican prison isn't going to be up to what you need to be fighting a UFC fighter, and especially a UFC fighter whose last 5 fights haven't gotten out of the first round, bro. This dude, he's won 4 of the 5 of them. Rodriguez is a super tough, badass dude, but you want to talk about tough spots. It's like, congratulations, welcome back. You're out of prison. We've got a job for you still here, but you're going to Serbia to fight the Serbian. And, oh, yeah, by the way, none of his fights get out of the first round. What's your take on this fight?
Yeah, this fight, it scares the crap out of me because the last Daniel Rodriguez fight against Kevin Holland, I had parlays that finished from the Xfinity race that day. I had parlays finished from earlier in the fight. All Kevin Holland. I had like 20 units. I had 20 units sitting there on Kevin Holland.
MMA parlays.
Yeah, and I had it all set. I was all good to go. And just before the fight, I said, man, I should probably throw a little bit of something on D-Rod. And I was like, no shot. This guy's not winning this fight. He comes out, he hurts Kevin Holland right off the bat. Kevin Holland had him dead to rights in the third round, could have had him finished. I could have scraped. I wouldn't have scraped. I would have crushed, but I would have avoided, the chaos of not hedging when I should have absolutely hedged. And he was able to survive. It was the most that I had potential to win that I didn't hedge. I didn't do anything. And it all went by the wayside because, Kevin Holland is Kevin Holland. And I knew better. That's Kevin Holland. I knew better, but I didn't go with the hedge, which would have been so easy. So D-Rod, he's dangerous. He does have a good reach. He's got good size. He's got good striking. He has some power, which, Medic has been cracked in the past, and the chin is kind of, can be questionable. But overall, I think Medic is, the much more dangerous guy. He's on a nice little run. He should get this win. But like I said, I'm scarred. I'm scarred from that last D-Rod fight, but I think Medic wins this fight. I think he probably puts him away. If he's got D-Rod hurt, like Kevin Holland had him hurt late in the third round where he's completely cooked, I think Medic puts him away. So, I can trust Medic's fight IQ a little bit more than Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland has one of the worst fight IQs, in the game. So yeah, Medic, I think, wins this fight. I think he puts him away. And, I'm just if it gets to that fight where I've got a couple parlays that could cash, I will be hedging a little bit on D-Rod. But, I think Medic gets the job done here.
Yeah, there's always going to be a fight or a game that you remember that mistakes were made. And yeah. I'm not a hedger at all. I've always said that hedging is for gardeners, and I'm not Edward Scissorhands, so I'm not down with hedging.
That's what I said, too, when I didn't do it.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't do that. But it happened to me, man. We were, we had a couple of partners, but we were in 8th place in the Las Vegas Super Contest. And it was the last game of the year, the Sunday nighter, and it was the Bears and the Packers. And if we won the bet, we were on the Packers. If the Packers covered, we would have finished in 4th place and won $104,000 in the contest. If they lost, we wouldn't finish any worse than 8th. So, basically, we kind of knew our fate, which you kind of pray for in situations like that, to hedge.
Yeah.
Right? But, so it was like we knew going into the game. I was like, yeah, if the Bears cover, we win $57,000. If the Packers cover, we win $104,000, and we split it. And right before the game, someone told me, they said, you really should put like $10K or something on the other side.
Right.
And I said, dude, we just beat thousands of people and are in 8th place in the Las Vegas Super Contest. I didn't come this far by being a bitch and hedging. I said, we're going in on the game that we like. Like I said, we're in 8th place for a reason. This is the game we like. At halftime, Tom, I was in a panic trying to get bets in.
Yeah.
2,000 here, 3K there. We ended up losing. Combat Sports Report continues.
Philly had issues elsewhere last year that were on full display in the playoff game against the Niners. They couldn't move the ball all game, and then they got in a 2-minute hurry-up drill, and they walked right down the field. Guys, Tom Brady would do Eagle games. Every single week he'd go, gosh, if they do some hurry up. And then immediately they do some hurry up, 2-minute warning, and they look like a completely different football team.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
You know, the dark days are ahead for the Warriors. And when Curry and Kerr and Draymond all leave, what are we going to be looking at that franchise that has been a mainstay of the NBA, you know, the face of the NBA and NBA playoffs for so long? Where are they going to be? So I see no issue with them bringing Draymond back. Why not? You have one last go at things with the trio that they still have there. But I see this as a very long season.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Just can't win the big game. He can't get us in the big game. Well, we got to let him go now because we're tired. We'll keep the quarterback. So, you know what I've been saying? Okay, you kept the quarterback. Guess what? Mr. Lamar Jackson, it's on you now.
Hey,
it's on you.
Absolutely.
Right? It's on Lamar.
It is. It is totally on him now and the new coaching staff there.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
I'd be looking to sell Louis Varland at this point just because his success has been great, but I'm also worried about how many more opportunities he's going to have given the dynamic of where the Blue Jays sit in the standings. You know, we've heard some rumors that they may be wanting to trade Jeff Hoffman, and it could open up a lot of opportunities for Louis Varland, but there's also nothing pushing the Blue Jays to continuously have out a great player when they're fighting for nothing when it's all said and done.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
We could debate hedging or not all night long, and just because I don't like doing it doesn't mean that it's not a good thing to do. Like, I like doing a lot of dumb things, so it doesn't mean, like I said, it doesn't mean, and especially, you know, in combat sports, different sports are different, right? But it's sort of like the cash out button. You don't want to start overthinking it because you're just going to terrorize yourself. You're going to be staring at a screen 24 hours a day thinking, I should have done this, I should have done that. So you don't want to start to, like, try to put too many decisions in your life. But we see often, Tom, with fights where, you know, let's say you have, you know, you're winning a fight, you're about to win a parlay and stuff, and the other fighter's like plus 850 or he's plus 1350 or something. Mm-hmm. I don't like doing it, but it's not crazy just to say, all right, you know what, let's put 100 on that on the other side. Like, if something happens, boom, you're getting $1,450 back no matter what type of deal. If, like, you know, in certain spots, and I say this just because live MMA odds are kind of whacked, right? Like, other leagues are sharp and run by computers. It's a human element to live MMA betting still that the sports books are kind of like still figuring it out. Like, a guy can lose a round and there's a massive like change. Like, MMA live betting is really, really good. But as far as the main event is concerned, we'll hit some of these other fights here. But like the total, as I stated, with Medic here, he doesn't get out of the first round ever, guys. His last 5 fights have all ended in the first round. He's won 4 of the 5 of them. Over 1.5 is plus 160. Under 1.5 is minus 210. It's all you need to know, man. Like, that's rare that you get that much of a plus money, especially not with heavyweights.
Yeah, I mean, this fight, like I said, I expect, you know, I expect to end. It's probably by knockout. I mean, and if D-Rod wins, I would expect it to be early. And Medic also, I mean, he's going to win this fight. I would expect by knockout. So I expect all violence in that fight. And yeah, I mean, I honestly, the over 1.5, it can be a little bit tempting with that plus money, but yeah, I think it probably ends. It probably ends in the first round. If it gets to the second round, it's probably not going to get too deep. So I expect to finish. I expect fireworks.
I don't often bet unders either. I'm more of an over better when it comes to MMA. I like to, you know, try to jump on the value to the over, but I don't see this lasting 7.5 minutes either. Jan was supposed to fight Guskov last week, right? That's who they were. That was the plan, but Guskov got thrown in against Magomed. We cashed that ticket last week, hit a nice same fight parlay with that as well. Unfortunately, I gave it back later in the day in other sports, but that's another story. But Jan is a big underdog here, plus 260. Is this another one of these fights with Sterling that, do you trust him? Like, should he be this big of a favorite?
Yeah, Sterling's a guy I've never been super confident with. He's coming off a couple nice knockout wins, but, I mean, the guys he's beating are, Bruno Silva, a guy that's completely done, completely washed, getting knocked out by everybody. And then Kudalaba, who came out, had him in a bad spot early, got the takedown against Sterling, had him, nearly had a choke, but didn't really have it. And, Kudalaba is one of those guys, he starts fast, he tries to get that wrestling going, and if things don't go well, he starts to fade. That's kind of what happened. So, I mean, Jan is the best guy that he's fought. The only problem with Jan is he's 43 years old. He's had a lot of injuries. He's been through a lot of wars. He's fought the best of the best in this division over the past 10 years. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think Jan really has any kind of path to victory here. I am kind of interested in the takedowns because I do think he could, go for takedowns. The last few times he took guys down. Alex Pereira, first round, was taking him down over and over again. Israel Adesanya, who's a teammate of Sterling here, and he took Izzy down for 5 straight rounds. A title fight at 205. So the takedowns are live in this spot, but outside of that, I mean, Jan, he's just 43 years old, a lot of damage. I don't really see him, finding a victory in this one.
No, and I can't disagree with you here. Just for the record, a parlay of the two favorites on the main event and the co-main event right now is in the minus 150 range. What do you think of Rakic and Tybura, who another big number here, minus 350? Tybura's the big dog here at plus 275.
Yeah, this fight's pretty terrible. I mean, Rakic, he's kind of like Jan. I mean, he's not as old, but doesn't really do a lot in his fights. He's pretty boring. Hasn't really had a win in 4 or 5 years. And
Sounds like an over.
Is a guy. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's an absolute over because, I mean, these guys can be staring at each other for 3 rounds. They could be leaning on each other. If Tybura is able to get him down and land some ground and pound, Tybura is live in this fight. But Rakic does have pretty solid takedown defense. He was a pretty big guy at 205, so I expect him to come in here probably, 235, 240. Like he'll probably have some weight on him. But, I mean, these guys are two guys that they don't put up a lot of volume on the feet. They don't really do a lot. And to be honest with you, Rakic, if you go back and look at his career wins, they're not really all that impressive. And like I said, he hasn't had a win in a long time. So I like the overs in this one. Maybe a live betting spot here. If Tybura, can get some takedowns, he might have a shot here to kind of swing some things. But, yeah, to me, this is just a really bad fight. I think it goes over. I think it goes all 3 rounds because neither guy really has that killer instinct. And Tybura's, he's pretty slow and sluggish just in general as it is. I mean, they both are, to be fair. So, yeah, I expect overs in this fight. I expect it to be probably pretty boring. So if you bet the money line on either side, you're probably going to be disappointed for the most of the fight.
Yeah, and the total actually is the number is very manageable. Over under 2.5 is minus 125. So we're not laying some massive number there to get this fight to the over. All right, we'll get Tom's best bets. We'll see if he likes anything on the prelims. We'll recap the main card as well. Combat Sports Report continues on the SportsGrid Television Network.
I'd be looking to sell Louis Varland at this point just because his success has been great, but I'm also worried about how many more opportunities he's going to have given the dynamic of where the Blue Jays sit in the standings. We've heard some rumors that they may be wanting to trade Jeff Hoffman, and it could open up a lot of opportunities for Louis Varland, but there's also nothing pushing the Blue Jays to continuously have out a great player when they're fighting for nothing when it's all said and done.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
The dark days are ahead for the Warriors. And when Curry and Kerr and Draymond all leave, what are we going to be looking at that franchise that has been a mainstay of the NBA, the face of the NBA and NBA playoffs for so long? Where are they going to be? So I see no issue with them bringing Draymond back. Why not? You have one last go at things with the trio that they still have there. But I see this as a very long season.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Philly had issues elsewhere last year that were on full display in the playoff game against the Niners. They couldn't move the ball all game, and then they got in a 2-minute hurry-up drill, and they walked right down the field. Guys, Tom Brady would do Eagle games. Every single week he'd go, gosh, if they do some hurry-up. And then immediately they'd do some hurry-up, 2-minute warning, and they'd look like a completely different football team.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Combat Sports Report continues. We're kicking it with Tom Zaffino right now. Taking a look at UFC Serbia this week. We'll get Tom's best bets. I'll throw a fight out there, guys, and it is a big number. And I'm not even going to say she's going to finish the fight, really. The total's 2.5. It's minus 130. But I do think she's going to win. And Nina Milosevic, minus 425 against Haley Cowan. Bad spot for Haley Cowan getting sent here. Let's be real. Like, a lot of fighters are being sent here to lose, Tom, right? And she's one of them.
Yeah, and it's typically a bad spot for Haley Cowan, if we're really being honest. I don't think she's very good. She comes from a gymnastics background. She's relatively athletic, but her MMA career has just not been impressive. So, I don't foresee her getting a win in this spot. It is tough. It is tough betting these big numbers at women's MMA, but I mean, you're never going to see me backing Haley Cowan in any fight. And this fight,
no, I'm just saying, if you want to get a head start, right? You get a head start on this. It's one fight out of the way. If you like one of the fights later in the day or another sport, like you, I'll cross sport this stuff too, right? Yeah, it might be maybe a Dodger money line. It's a little higher than I like, and I'll be like, all right, I'll just take the Dodgers now, and I'll put Milosevic in this right now, and I've got that fight.
Yeah, that's fine. That's I mean, I think she wins all day. So yeah. I just don't like Haley Cowan at all. So I think that's a fine play.
Anything on the undercard? I brought that fight up, but anything else on the prelims that catches your eye, and we'll get to your best bets. But anything on the prelims?
I'm looking at the first fight. Maria Spacek, I mean, she's a pretty sizable underdog as well. She's fighting Luciano, they're both kind of, they're both kickboxers. They can both grapple. But Spacek is she's like plus 250 right now on the money line. I think that fight goes all 3 rounds. I think it's pretty competitive. I think if Spacek gets going forward, she can, Luciano is not great when she's on the back foot. So I think there's a good, plus 230 type money line bet, and also the plus 3.5. I think that fight goes all 3 rounds. So Spacek, she could lose a fight 29-28. You could start that, with a little parlay piece. I think it's going to be a competitive fight, and but I think she could just win outright. I just think it's a pretty competitive fight, and it goes back and forth. It goes all 3 rounds, and she's a local fighter. So, Spacek, as a pretty sizable underdog, has a really good shot to make her debut here in the UFC and get a win. I'm also looking at Rebeski. Rebeski's a parlay piece for me. I'll be looking at his takedowns, fighting Kyle Prepolek. Prepolek is not very good against grapplers. He's just not very good. I mean, he hasn't won a fight in the UFC. He's 0-4 in the UFC. Rebeski's tough as nails. He's had a bit of a rough run. Like, if you look at his record recently, it hasn't been great. But I think Rebeski gets those takedowns going and potentially finds a finish on the mat or lands, 5 or 6 takedowns over the course of fight, beats him up. And, he's a solid parlay piece himself. And I like those takedown ladders. So if I can start the takedowns with, 3, 4, that's probably something I'll be looking to bet as well.
Rebeski's a minus 525 favorite right now. The total 1.5 over 1.5 is minus 145, under 1.5 plus 115. Like we said, guys, it's a chalky card. One fight, there's a couple of fights we didn't get to though that we have some. One of them's a pick'em here with Gugnon and Jancic at minus 105. I actually think Noah's the play in that fight. We didn't get to the Dusko Valentin fight either. Valentin minus 170. Any opinions on those fights?
Yeah, the Dusko fight, I think Valentin does win that fight. I think he does put him away. The Gagnon fight, that's one that I still want to do a little bit more research on. That's one that, I'm not familiar with both fighters enough to.
It's a level of competition thing with me. That if you look like the Noah's fought in France, and at least he's fought in kind of some real dudes. Seems like Milos fought a lot of tomato cans in his career, bro.
Yeah, and that's his thing. And that's one that I definitely want to look into. But I think Valentin puts out Dusko. Dusko's another local fighter, but man, his chin's always up in the air, and I think he gets clipped yet again here.
All right, great stuff with Tom. Follow him on line. We'll be back with more. We'll get you caught up to date with everything that's going on in the BKFC. I'll give you my best bets as well. Combat Sports Report continues. Bring it.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
The dark days are ahead for the Warriors. And when Curry and Kerr and Draymond all leave, what are we going to be looking at that franchise that has been a mainstay of the NBA, the face of the NBA and NBA playoffs for so long? Where are they going to be? So I see no issue with them bringing Draymond back. Why not? You have one last go at things with the trio that they still have there. But I see this as a very long season.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
Philly had issues elsewhere last year that were on full display in the playoff game against the Niners. They couldn't move the ball all game, and then they got in a 2-minute hurry-up drill, and they walked right down the field. Guys, Tom Brady would do Eagle games. Every single week he'd go, gosh, if they do some hurry-up. And then immediately they'd do some hurry-up, 2-minute warning, and they'd look like a completely different football team.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
They come in a lot more better prepared to play than, say, we did, having to learn some of the things that we learned coming into the NFL that we weren't learning in college. A lot of these kids are getting quarterback coaches, as far back as junior high school and all the way through high school into college. So I think the position is a lot more stronger than it's ever been.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Thanks to Tom Zaffino for kicking with us, talking some UFC Serbia. We'll have a couple of more best bets for you. And, of course, follow me online at Sports Rage. And I always post a bunch of picks right before every UFC card. And we've got a couple of interesting picks this week that we like. Listen, it's a chalky card. We're going to go parlay. We got a couple of parlays that we like. Got a couple of totals that we like. But we've been starting to get more and more into betting on BKFC. And BetOnline does a great job of posting numbers for this stuff. And King Kai Stewart has become a friend of the program. Except I think I might be his only friend, actually, in this business. But listen, when you're one of the best and you're undefeated, everybody's going to be coming for you. Everyone's going to be calling you out. And Kai Stewart and BKFC, of course, are going to Fenway Park. That's right, Fenway Park. How cool is that? It's going to be sick. And as expected, the press conference got pretty out of hand, and there was a lot of smack talk that went down at the press conference. This just happened earlier in the week, so we'll get you caught up to date with everything that's going on in BKFC with the countdown to the Fenway Park card. So King Kai Stewart basically decided to go into Boston and just be public enemy number one.
Doesn't have the background. He's not as tough. I come from 4 generations of bloodline. You're from the sticks. Go back to Montana and go make a fire and go hunting or whatever the you guys do out there. This is the real gritty city, bro. You ain't with it. I promise you.
Speaking of that, go to my YouTube, King Kai 145. All the Montana live streams. I'm the best at that shit. I love it, and that gives me the peace of mind to come out here and break these Boston like him.
One thing you notice, too, like with BKFC, like, there's a bunch of dudes, like, you can tell they're just, like, savage psychopaths. You know, Kai is trying, you know, he's got more of the UFC thing to him, right? You know what I mean? Like, he's the only one, he's wearing a suit, he's got the glasses on. He's trying to be the professional. He's trying to be the professional in the room, and it was just too funny, man, because it was just basically an hour of, like, but the thing is, like, even fighters that weren't fighting Kai started, like, calling Kai out. They're like, dude, you're annoying. And, like, man, I'd like to beat you up. Like, by the end of it, it was like King Kai Stewart versus everybody on the stage. Like I said, I can't wait to see how this goes down in Fenway, man. It's going to be a hostile crowd. So let's get more of the King Kai presser.
Talk, but it's time to walk the walk on August 29th, and you're going to be handing that belt over to me, buddy.
Bro, you're 31 years old. You're unmarketable. There's no fucking way that's happening.
Like I said, keep that stash going. It's great. It's marketable, but I'm the king here. Real.
Bro, you're trying to do a mustache just like me because you know that I'm the
mustache like
BKFC.
you.
Like I'm right there, face to face with you, and your mustache looks like fucking like your ass or something.
You're gonna be handing that belt over to me, buddy.
King Kai versus the city of Boston. Harry Gigliotti's got the city on his back. Fighting for the featherweight championship of the world right here at Fenway. Harry Gigliotti, Kai Stewart for the featherweight title.
You're done, buddy. It's over.
I'm going to ask him because he comes on the show a lot, but like, it seems to me that King Kai smoked a lot of weed before this presser. Like, he's just so chill and laid back. Like, I don't know. It's just me, but he seems to be like more buzzed than Tony Romo was. But at least Kai's not driving. So, thing is, you know, there was a lot of stuff. We can't play a lot of it because it's basically just one F-bomb after another, right? We'd have to bleep out everything. But Kai just sort of went on, like, it just sort of, like, kept, you know, saying everybody from Boston is a bitch. And it started to upset all the other dudes that are on the card from Boston, saying, hey, you don't talk about Boston like that. And like I said, I can't, you know, they did a good job of selling this because I can't wait to see how it plays out. Just the entire card is going to be sick at Fenway, Saturday, August the 29th. But here's Peter Garrett stepping up and in right now.
Let me set the record straight. I grew up in a time where if you spoke like that about someone in Boston, it was on site and you'd have your teeth shoved down your throat. So watch your mouth, buddy. I don't care if you're King Kai. You're in Boston.
And
you're
you
in
guys
enemy
ain't going to
territory.
do shit
You're
about
in
it.
enemy territory.
All you're doing is talking.
Yeah.
So you guys are not going to do anything about it.
Great. At the end of the day, you're in Boston. Watch your mouth. So, to fight in Fenway is...
Go Yankees, baby.
Go Yankees. Go, baby. Go Yankees, baby. And, man, like I said, I love Kai. Right? He's kind of become our guy on this show, but his smack talk was just so like they're coming at him. He just comes back with "Go Yankees." You're not even marketable. You're 31 years old. Like I said, I gotta believe that the King Kai Stewart smoked some serious bluntage before he hit that stage in Boston. So no numbers up. No numbers up for the card, but Bet Online does a great job with BKFC, the official sponsor, and they're already starting to post some numbers. We got the number up. We had Mike Jones on, and he's fighting Atchison. We wanted to get that number up, and Atchison's a minus 200 favorite. Mike Jones plus 150 for the main event in Sturgis, but BKFC announced Darren Till is going to be fighting Yoel Romero. Darren Till opens as a minus 140 favorite. Yoel Romero plus 100 at Bet Online. BKFC, their Summer of Violence tour continues through Europe. UFC in Serbia this week, but BKFC's been in Europe. They were in Naples, Italy. They went to Uruguay last week. They're going to England this week, and they got like 10,000 people basically in Uruguay last week, which is pretty solid. And Reno got it done in the first round.
This was a dream I had forever, but I never imagined it was going to be that good. Thank you so much for all the BKFC staff to make this happen. I promise I will keep racing to the top. No sé quién va a decir nada ni va a dar discurso, pero voy a decir una cosa. Este fue el primero de muchos. La rompieron todo. Y estoy seguro que vamos a ir a Argentina, a Chile, a Brasil, a todos lados, porque a Punta del Este, porque tenemos unos huevos gigantes en Latino. Gracias, Tonga. Gracias, muchas gracias a todos. Muchas gracias a todos.
And we're going to Newcastle this week. BKFC Newcastle.
Right hands out to the head from Taylor. Strong sequence. Dominant from Lewis Keane. And victory in his bare knuckle fighting championship debut for Stu Martin. That's knockdown number
2. We'll get you some best bets for the Newcastle card. Like I said, follow me on X. I always post picks right before these cards start. Some of these BKFC cards, they kind of drop the lines right before the fights, the day of the fights, etc. Especially like when we're in Europe and there's a lot of newcomers. But the sportsbooks, more and more sportsbooks are picking this up right now, and you got the future numbers up. As I stated, Darren Till opens up minus 140 against Yoel Romero, and Yoel, I think it's September 26th only, but for the record, I do think Darren Till will win this fight. I think the age difference will just be too much. And speaking of age differences, that's sort of the key this week to the UFC. There's a lot of age difference, and it's kind of one of the, I'm not going to say simplest handicaps, but the younger man wins in the UFC. Just like point blank, like these 40-year-old dudes that are fighting 30-year-old dudes, it doesn't go well for the 40-year-old dudes. So we'll get into some best bets. We'll get you caught up to date with some odds that have been posted in the UFC world. Combat Sports Report continues. Bring it. Combat Sports Report continues. I am Morency. Let's do what you guys tune in to this network for and try to pick some winners. So we got the UFC Serbia card. We've been on a nice little roll, as we were talking about with Tom earlier. We have been on a nice run with our MMA betting and overall combat sport betting, different leagues, etc., over the last month or so. And it's not as though it's like been brilliant handicapping or anything like that. It's been a pretty chalky month, but there are opportunities when you find, when you have a basically 80% chance of a fighter to win the fight, 90% chance of the fighter to win the fight. We should be able to find a couple of spots that we can pair them up with. And let's start off with the main event here. Listen, Daniel Rodriguez is a badass. The guy's basically an LA gangbanger, grew up on the streets of LA, tough as hell, right? Just got out of a Mexican prison. But that's one of the reasons why I don't like him in this fight. He's 39 years old. He just spent the last 9 months in jail. And he didn't he didn't do anything terrible or anything like that. It was like marijuana charges at the border type of deal. Something harmless turned into him getting locked up in Mexico. And, I know, and he talked about how in prison he ended up with like a big sort of cartel guy. His cellmate was a cartel member. And he said his cellmate was pretty powerful and he ate better than a lot of people did in the jail. And he goes, yeah, the cartel guy kind of knew I was tough. So he liked me because, I was kind of his bodyguard. Basically, I was always around him. So he was nice to me and he hooked me up. And he goes, I ate a lot better than a lot of people did there, but still. Right? I mean, there's still an amount of nutrition, there's still an amount of, protein and exercise and all this that goes into this stuff. But one thing that I can't help but think about, if there's a fighter that all that stuff wouldn't matter to, it would be a guy like Daniel Rodriguez, right? There's certain dudes, Bobby Green, King Green, whatever. Some of these dudes that are just sort of grew up on the streets. They're not oh yeah, I was a wrestler in Iowa. It's what did you do when you were younger? What did you play? Oh, I played, I played shooting people in gangs. Right? So some of these dudes, I think, that whole, I had a camp and all this and all my diet. Some guys are just fighters, man. Right? Some guys are just fighters. It doesn't matter all that stuff. Daniel Rodriguez is kind of that guy, but it's too much of an ask. And they're setting him up for failure here, sending him to Serbia. There's a lot of sort of set up fights here. They want the locals to win. There's a lot of Americans that are being sent there as basically sacrificial lambs. And the number is what it is for a reason. Now, what the total is what's fascinating about this fight, but Medic's fights are literally amongst the fastest fights in the history of the UFC. And in fact, in his weight class, and I didn't realize this, and my boy Frank Trigg's fights were so fast all the time. But Medic, like I said, guys, he doesn't get out of the first round. Win or lose, he does not get out of the first round. Now, he wins a hell of a lot more than he loses. He's 5-2 since he's moved up to the welterweight division. His last 5 fights have all ended in the first round. He's won 4 of them. His average fight time is 3 minutes and 59 seconds. That's not even a round. Think how insane that is. His average fights last less than 4 minutes. That's why they're saying, hey, go ahead. You want to bet the over 1.5? We'll give you plus 150 on that because this dude's fights don't last. And Rodriguez is a banger, so he's going to come out swinging as well. The only thing is, Rodriguez is super tough. Can he handle, let's just say he starts getting beat up. Can he handle getting beat up for 7.5 minutes? I don't think so. Right? 1.5 rounds is 7.5 minutes. It doesn't sound like a lot, but when you put it in context, it's 7.5 minutes. It's a long time to last, against somebody whose fights don't last. All 13 of Medic's career victories are by stoppage. He's finished all 7 of his UFC wins by knockout. can kind of see, the picture here. I do think that Medic is going to get it done. And whatever, dude. The UFC likes Rodriguez. He got out of jail. This game a main event. So considering some of the things that other people do in this company, they like him. So this isn't Rodriguez's career is on the line here. No, this is, hey, listen, you're a tough dude. We got to give Medic somebody tough. We're going to send you to Serbia. You're going to lose, but don't worry about it. We're not going to hold it against you. We need to have more fights after. So Medic is going to win this fight, and I do believe that Sterling is going to win the fight as well. And once again, I know that Jan's got the name and stuff, but the age difference is just going to be, too much of a difference. And we talked about it with Tom. The parlay was minus 154. It's already moving. It's minus 162 right now. If you wait and don't get this bet in, if we wait until right before the fight starts, this thing's going to be minus 200. All right, the numbers are going to go up. I will say that the Rakic-Tybura fight, I'm not interested in laying that big number. I don't trust Rakic. I trust Medic. I trust Sterling. I don't trust Rakic in this spot here, laying that number against Tybura. Anything could happen in that fight. All right, it's a heavy, like I said, I'm not laying minus 340. I'm not really in love with Tybura there earlier. I do like Gugnon. Gugnon's a minus 115 favorite. I expect this line to sort of climb as well. Noah is kind of a trendy pick in the handicapping world, so Noah Gugnon. And for parlay players out there, and here's another one too. We could just put Nina Milosevic. Milosevic is a heavily hyped prospect, and Haley Cowan has never won. You want to talk about a jobber, sacrificial lamb. They're sending Haley to Serbia to lose. So Nina Milosevic is going to be in a lot of my different parlays and plays that we put, cross sport as well. Combat Sports Report continues.
I'd be looking to sell Louis Varland at this point just because his success has been great, but I'm also worried about how many more opportunities he's going to have given the dynamic of where the Blue Jays sit in the standings. We've heard some rumors that they may be wanting to trade Jeff Hoffman, and it could open up a lot of opportunities for Louis Varland, but there's also nothing pushing the Blue Jays to continuously have out a great player when they're fighting for nothing when it's all said and done.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
The dark days are ahead for the Warriors. And when Curry and Kerr and Draymond all leave, what are we going to be looking at that franchise that has been a mainstay of the NBA, the face of the NBA and NBA playoffs for so long? Where are they going to be? So I see no issue with them bringing Draymond back. Why not? You have one last go at things with the trio that they still have there. But I see this as a very long season.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
Philly had issues elsewhere last year that were on full display in the playoff game against the Niners. They couldn't move the ball all game, and then they got in a 2-minute hurry-up drill, and they walked right down the field. Guys, Tom Brady would do Eagle games. Every single week he'd go, gosh, if they do some hurry-up. And then immediately they'd do some hurry-up, 2-minute warning, and they'd look like a completely different football team.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
We're into the last round right now. One more round. And, of course, it's time for our videos of the week. We're going to start off with a Sean Strickland video this week, and not of him saying insane statements like he basically does on a daily basis. But say what you will about Strickland, and you don't have to agree with everything that he says, but it's the media. Like, people often will scapegoat personalities. And as I stated, I'm not a big Strickland fan, but like, don't get mad at his answers if you're the one that asked him the question, right? Like, you know what I mean? He doesn't say these things on his own. He takes the question and then answers it. And then people say, oh my God, I can't believe he said that. It's like, well, you're the one that just put it on a tee for him, and you wanted him to say that, and he sort of gets it and obliges. So I'm not going to get into his interview this week, in which it was all about politics and the world and everything like that, but can say one thing that I do respect about Sean Strickland is the fact that you see all these training videos. Like, the guy will fight with he'll train with anybody. Like, if you told Sean, yeah, we're going to bring in 6 NFL players and you're going to go at them at once, he'll be like, all right, cool, let's do it. Like, bigger dudes, smaller dudes, whatever, like any walk of life, you know, any athlete, any sport, like Strickland, like, basically every day is in the gym just rolling with people, and it makes him tougher. It does, right? And here he is with Dylan Fairchild, offensive lineman for the Cincinnati Bengals, who's a big-time dude. Right? And here's Strickland, like, rolling around with a 325-pounder. Like, how the hell are you supposed to take Sean Strickland down when you just see, like, and I get that, and that was pretty impressive by Fairchild, actually. Like, his shoot, man, when he went for the ankle for a big dude like that, it was laser fast, right? I mean, he's got that NFL Twitch, like, speed thing. It was razor, you know, that was fast. I was impressive by Fairchild, but, like, dude, Fairchild literally weighs, like, 335 pounds. And you saw Strickland, like, Fairchild couldn't get Strickland down, right? He got Strickland down for a second, and Strickland just scrambled and was, like very impressive. So, like I said, that stuff makes you tougher. You know what I mean? Yeah, you're rolling around with, like, 300-pounders, and you'll take on all comers in the gym every day. It's going to make you tougher when you're fighting for real and you're fighting a dude that you're bigger than after. All right, this is one of the this is great. This is great. This is one of the best knockouts that you'll ever see in any sport.
Ronda has done in her career. I know she's 18-0, 15 knockouts, but how many people were scared of her and did not really fight her?
Oh, big right hand! One punch! That is it! Forget about the count. It is over. Tim Burr. Wow. Unbelievable. Let's hope that Vonda is okay. A jubilant and that is probably the best knockout punch I've ever seen in female
boxing. The shot after
like, still
of her on the ground.
Vonda Ward.
Wow.
She's out. Like, absolutely smoked.
Listen.
Oh. That's the definition. That's the textbook knockout right there. Thanks to CSI Sports for that. And I said earlier that I think that King Kai, I got to believe that King Kai smoked a bunch of weed before he hit the stage at Fenway. This guy didn't wait for the press conference to light it up. This guy was clearly a fan of the Diaz brothers.
Trochę parteru, a nawet nawet dużo parteru. Stójka.
All right, listen, it's one thing. The fact that he had the joint in his shorts the whole time just makes it even better. I think we're out of time here on the Compact Sports Report. Thanks to Tom Zaffino. That was a great video. I enjoyed that one. So thanks to Tom Zaffino for kicking with us on the program. Follow us on X. We get all of our best bets. Let's keep on crushing these cards this week. Thanks to our crew. Other than that, you're on your own. Later.